Hi everyone, my name is Elo Newcomb. I'm the founder and CEO of the Collective SD, which is a full-service marketing agency here in San Diego. A little bit what makes my company different is that we leverage the gig economy by providing best-in-breed strategists in all these different disciplines to help you with your marketing problems. And I help project manage and account manage our solutions moving forward. I'm also proud to say that I'm the Executive Vice President-elect of the Junior League of San Diego and have been a member for a number of years now, and other great female women's organization here in San Diego. We just celebrated our 90th anniversary, so a little shout out to the Junior League.
Hi everybody, my name is Alyssa and I am the co-founder of Futures Past, a creative media agency that specializes in photo and video. You can see my partner right there, recording video right now. We love to work with hospitality, lifestyle, and food and beverage brands. We also just opened up our office space in Barrio Logan. We have a production studio in there, so in case our clients don't necessarily have the budget to work with us, we do have the tools and resources so they can also produce quality photo and video as well. We also use this space as a creative event space, so when we're not using it, people like myself or anyone in this room can host any networking events, any yoga events, anything fun or exciting in there. I also have a podcast called Coffee and Convos where I interview and have coffee with some amazing creatives and entrepreneurs here in San Diego. We just talk, I really love to talk about the vulnerability and just the real side of being a business owner and a creative, because I feel like it's not something talked about as often as it should be. And yeah, that's who I am. I'm Alyssa and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I'm Vanessa Valiente. I'm San Diego's #1 personal stylist and the first fashion blogger of the city. Oh, great.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katy Goshtasbi. That's Kathy without the H. Version 1.0 is Katy, because Katy Perry ruined it for me. My mother's version is Katy. I want to thank Deborah Dupree for inviting me to be here, one-time friend and colleague. So in my first career, I was a securities lawyer, because as an immigrant, I was sure being a lawyer is how I was meant to save the world. You can laugh, because no one thinks lawyers are going to save the world. All my audiences do once I give them permission. And so in this second career of mine for the past 12 years, I've been very blessed and fortunate to figure out that I'm very well balanced with my right creative brain as well as my left linear brain, which is what made me a good lawyer apparently. And I run a global consulting company where the real focus is the whole person that comes to work, that runs the business, that shows up in life. And who are people and how do we find their truth? And in business that looks like, well, how do we increase retention and productivity by having whole people come to work? And personally, it amasses to clients who are evolved and know who they are and how they want to brand themselves and then brand the business message around that. And I travel globally consulting and speaking, and I'm happy to be here with you guys tonight.
Centera, and I'm the founder and president of TerraPro Solutions, and we are an energy consulting firm in renewables. So we work with clients globally on the development of energy projects. And in the renewables world, 13% of women are working in renewables, and most of those are in tech jobs. So my company, we represent a very small minority of women working in renewables. So I'm really proud of that. We work really hard, and we have really the top clients in the world that work in renewables. So it's been 7 years now, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Patti Roscoe, and I have spent my entire career in the hospitality industry. I was in the hotel business for about 10 years, and then I took a year off to travel, and I came back, and I went to work for a company called Destination Management. I had no idea what they did. Turned out they were event planners, corporate convention meeting planners, and they actually were from Brazil, two American guys who started in Brazil, and they wanted a U.S. presence, and they thought San Diego would be a great place to have this kind of a company. And I was looking for something to do and got connected with them and stayed with them for quite a while, and then decided, because I was asked by two clients, to start my own business, which I did. And I started in San Diego, and over the years I franchised it and had 20 offices nationwide and sold it to a company out of London, and now it's international. And I am so pleased to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, so we are just gonna dive right into this first really big question. What would you describe as 3 pivotal points in your life or career that shaped where you are now? What motivated you to start your own business?
If I were to pinpoint 3 major events in my life, the first would be quitting my corporate job. I quit it's been over a year now, so last March. I had every intention to just freelance and start a different business to focus on social media marketing. But as I continued to find that the partnership that I was pursuing at the time, it just wasn't a right fit. So that's life occurrence number 2. I decided that I really wanted to focus my passion in storytelling and the ability to capture beautiful images. And because most of my expertise is in photography, I knew that I wanted to create something bigger than myself. So I wanted to create a new business, and it was just perfect timing because Ian, my partner, he is a videographer and a photographer as well. And we just wanted to come together and form a business, and that's my pivotal life moment number 3. And why we really wanted to form this business is because we wanted to give our clients a better product, and I can't do that alone. I knew that I wanted someone who supported my vision and someone that I know that our paths aligned. So we both saw this opportunity to create a production company, and we work closely with our clients. A lot of our clients are monthly clients, so for food and beverage, we'll take product photography, we'll take videos for social media content, and it's been really, really rewarding. Because I came from the digital marketing and social media marketing side, I really loved the storytelling aspect, and it was getting to know my client's story and that ability to create beautiful imagery for them. So that's where I am now, and since we launched this business earlier this year in January, the second that we dove all in, that's when we found our ideal clients, that's when we were able to really focus on the things that bring us joy and also help our clients with what they needed the most.
I think mine will start with a bit of a background. So my degree is costume design for television and film, and I began at the Old Globe as a costumer, and then I had the opportunity to go do TV shows at Stu Super Productions, if anyone may remember them. And there was this big package of all these telenovelas that came from Mexico that were then translated into English, and then of course made with, American production companies. So I was working on these shows, and this is where the first pivotal moment, right? Between the next show, it got canceled. And at this time, I had never had money before, so I had saved up thousands and thousands of dollars. And I had very little expenses, and I had already started personal styling in between the shows, because you would get breaks anywhere from like 2 to 4 weeks. So I had 4 clients when they got canceled, and so I just started personal styling and doing commercials and editorials, basically anywhere that I was needed. And then in 2014, I became so overwhelmed. I had so many clients, I had so many projects. I was still occasionally doing a TV show, and that's where I had to take a moment and raise my rates and realize that I was running a business. We were talking earlier, you know, I didn't realize I was running a business. And so that was when I became a businesswoman in 2014, at least in my mind. And then actually it was this last year where again, I had become so overwhelmed with so many clients, 300 clients. I couldn't even do commercials anymore. I couldn't be on set anymore, and I still had passion for that. So I had to raise my rates again and make a conscious effort to choose my clients versus my clients choosing me. And so that, I'm much happier now. But yeah, that was a pivotal moment last year where I had to kind of make that shift towards what do I want now. So yeah.
So for me, it feels like there's so many pivotal moments. You figure out how many there are as I explain it. So I'm an immigrant. We immigrated to the U.S. In '79 from Iran. Most of my audiences want to know where I'm from, so you don't have to spend the whole time guessing I'm from Iran. We left with 2 suitcases, thinking we were going to go to Indiana for 2 weeks because we had to leave the country for religious reasons, and we never went back. So I got to grow up in the Midwest in Indiana, and I had a great upbringing. Again, thought I should be a lawyer, save the world, and also that's the immigrant mentality, right? You're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And I had a great stint in that. I was in Washington, D.C. most of my career. So I think the first pivotal moment was just moving and going through a change that drastic. And so my expertise now is really in change and how organizations and people manage change by managing their stress. And so in DC, I was a lobbyist. Then I was at the Securities and Exchange Commission when Enron blew up, talked about stress and change. Then I was at a major law firm. Then my clientele were always the big boys, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton. It was always me and a bunch of old men. So, and I was always picking up the tabs. I was their best friend over whiskey and cigars. But it started to feel really hollow. Like people were like, "What a great lifestyle." I'm like, "Yeah, is it?" But I started to give branding advice on the run. Other lawyers would come and say, "How'd you get that client? How'd you get promoted?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't have time for this. I'll take you to lunch. I'll feed you. I'll tell you what I'm doing. Try it. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to lunch." And that was how my second career started. So fast forward, my family moved out to San Diego. My dad got sick, so I said, "All right, I'll move to California." I went to Newport Beach. I was investment counsel at Pacific Life, so I reported to 2 large fund boards. And I was dating my husband at the time, who was a dentist in San Diego and a deep introvert who loves being in the middle of all my keynotes. And he said to me one weekend, he said, "You don't look happy. Make sure you don't blow up at work." And I was so offended. I was like, who blows up at work? But then I was like, curious. So I went to work. It was a Wednesday. I had spent 15 hours drafting this much of a mutual fund prospectus, and that's all you need to know. And I went home 9 o'clock at night to my home, opened up my mailbox in the dark, and there just so happened to be one of my own prospectuses. And what do you think I reflexively did with that thing? I threw it away because no one reads that stuff. I have a different word for it, but we'll keep it clean. So that was a huge pivotal moment. Standing there, that was my aha moment that, oh my goodness, this is not what my life's purpose is. Okay, to make a lot of money, to make corporations a lot of money, and to do what? So I quit cold turkey 2 years before the recession. I said, I can't do this. This is going to kill me. Everyone thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy. But I just couldn't see a path down that road. It was so unhealthy and unhappy. But now 2 years before the recession, no one was recreating themselves. So it was weird what I was doing, truly weird. All I could see, so my natural skill set is I can project out. Client walks in, I'm like, I see it all in front of me, right? And I could just tell that the recession was coming on. I'm an econ minor and a finance minor with a law degree. So I'm like, people are gonna have to start relying on themselves, i.e. their own brand, in order to figure out what they wanna do with their lives and get their careers advanced and grow businesses. None of this stuff about Colgate and Crest and the business brands holding them up anymore. So I started down that path, found out I was a public speaker. No one had ever asked me to talk as a transactional lawyer. Who cared what I had to say, frankly, as long as I was generating revenues and pushing papers around. And I think it was the day that I got I think it was like my 20th email from a client, and back then it was BlackBerry. And people were saying weird stuff that I'd never heard as a lawyer. They were like, this stuff is life-changing, I'll never be the same, thank you so much. And I'm like, what? Like, I had never had a career, an opportunity to be that vessel, that conduit for people and businesses to really shift and grow. And I remember holding it up to my husband crying. He's like, again? And I'm like, oh. So that could very well have been the pivotal moment that I realized that, oh, this is how a person can make a change in the world. One person at a time, one group at a time, one company at a time. For me, my focus is just on people transforming and being better versions of themselves at the end of the day. They can take that to the bank and do whatever they want with it. But that matters to me. And so you matter in being able to do that for other people, because I'm just one person. But the power of all of us together is incredible. And so all those moments make me really want to pass this message on, because it's not just about me, it's about all of us being able to find that natural talent in our capacity and serve our life's purpose. So there you go.
So I'm thinking about pivotal moments. I think the first one came, I fell into renewables purely by accident. Most people probably don't know, but San Diego is probably one of the biggest renewable capitals. Solar and wind, so many companies, major companies are based here. I had no idea I had a legal background, and I took a job working with in-house counsel, and it really was my dream job, learning about renewables. And 6 months into it, the attorney I was working with quit. And I thought the bottom fell out. I really did. I thought, this is my dream job. What happened? We were in the middle of a huge acquisition. For us in renewables, we're always acquiring, whether it's projects or sites or what have you. And we were acquiring a whole lot of property and sites in Palm Springs for projects. And I talked to the head counsel, and I said, can I just keep on doing what we were doing? Can I just, continue on? And he said, sure. Renewables is very volatile. It's tax driven, so it's up and down and up and down. Anyway, I asked for that. I asked for it. It's really important, because that was pivotal. And they said, yeah, sure, go for it. And that really was the beginning of what evolved into my career. And so that was a really important time, because I had no idea where I was going to be going. If I thought I was going to end up here, I never would have thought so. I think the second really pivotal time for me was 10 years ago. I left an abusive marriage. And I walked out the door with 2 kids, 2 cars, and 6 paper bags. That was what I took with me. And I wanted to start a new life. And you talk about passion. I teach and speak. And that's really how I talk to women. I say, if I can do it, anyone can. But I made a conscious decision to start my life over, and that was huge. I've been married a long time. I decided that I was going to start a new life, whatever that looked like. So I was willing to leave everything behind and walk into a new future that I had no idea what it was going to look like. So I think that's the second pivotal point, is be willing to walk into a future where you don't have all the answers. I didn't know what the next steps were going to be, but I just took one step after the other. I think the next real pivotal point for me was in 2012. Renewables is volatile. I was working for a super large utility company, an IPP, independent power producer. They were a global company, they're still around. But they had purchased our small private wind company, and then they decided to exit. They were out. So they shut down the office. And so everyone was laid off. I was laid off after 25 years. And it was a shock for me, and I remember being in complete denial when my supervisor first came and talked to me. I had just gone through my divorce, and I thought, okay, things are gonna be easy now. My life is gonna calm down. I went through trial through my divorce. So I thought, okay, so I'm just gonna focus and do my work, but oh no, rug got pulled out. And so I had a decision to make, and I was working on a very large solar project, and I just decided to continue that, and that ended up evolving into my business. But again, I didn't know what the future was going to bring, but I really took a chance on myself. I had the chance to go work for a title company, a lot of title background, and they wanted me to come in and build the renewable division. I talked with them for several months, and then I finally decided, I can go do it for them, or I can do it for me. And I decided to take a chance on myself. So from there, I started with one person, and we now have about 50 people. And like I said, our clients are global. So I never would have seen that ever. You know, I just knew that I wanted to start a new life, and I was just willing to take a chance on myself and have that vision, you know, just to see what that was going to turn into.
Thank you for sharing that. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and as a little girl, my aunt and uncle lived across the street from where we lived. My parents were both blue-collar workers. But my aunt went to work every day in a suit with a briefcase in her hand. And that just stuck with me. I thought, I want to do that someday. I so appreciated my parents because they worked very hard and provided me with a nice life. But I just thought, how much fun would it be to get dressed up in a suit every day and go to work? And that was in the 50s. And in the 50s, that was a big deal for a woman. She was a legal secretary, and to this day, she's still my hero. She lives in Simi Valley, and I see her as often as I can. She's truly my role model. The second would be starting my own business when I did not have a clue what I was doing. I had some clients who wanted me, as I said, to reach out on my own, and I did. And that was an aha moment, because I realized how much I didn't know about how to run a business. I was in a company called Destination Management, and that's event planning and corporate convention planning. I knew all about that. I did not know how to run a business. And I reached out and I found 3 very valuable people in my life: a business consultant, an attorney, an accountant. Not my strong suits. And so I let them do the hard work, and I did what I love to do, and that was put on events. And the third, I think, was making education a cornerstone of my personal philanthropy. My best friend works at San Diego State, and she got me involved in campus activities. I never had the opportunity to go to college, so it was a big deal. I loved interacting, and still do love interacting with the students, but I wondered why there wasn't a degree in tourism and hospitality management, because that's what the city's second largest industry is. And so another entrepreneur, Bob Payne, and I got together, and we decided we would do that. We got the industry together and said we need to start this program. And to my shock, these hoteliers and these other event people actually wrote checks, and they gave time, and they helped create the Vitae, and we created the College of Hospitality and Tourism Management, and then I went on and created Institute for Meetings and Events, because that's what I do. And it has been quite a ride, and I've just loved it.
Wow. So now we've talked about how you guys started your businesses, what led you there. Now that you've started your business, when looking back, what was the most unexpected thing that you encountered in trying to start that business once you got there?
I think one of the biggest challenges that I've faced starting this business was just knowing where to start. We had this idea, and though you can Google a bunch of things, like how do you start an actual business, it really was scary for us. We freelanced for a really long time, but forming this entity together was new to the both of us. And the things that we've experienced just within the last 8 months or so have been kind of crazy, but also seeing just how it led us to where we're supposed to be. We formed this business with nothing but an idea and a few clients that we've worked with in the past who gave us another chance to work under this entity. And we've been able to travel to Baja, to Valle de Guadalupe for clients, and really expand our reach more than we would have alone. We I think the biggest challenge to date is definitely occupying space. I think when it comes to business, and especially freelancing, we work from home in coffee shops for a lot of the time, and something we've dreamed of was opening our space, but we didn't imagine that would happen until maybe 2 or 3 years from now, because we're in San Diego, and it is not cheap. And honestly, everything fell into place. Like, if I tell you the story of how when I drove by to go to one of my favorite coffee shops, Cafe Virtuoso, I saw this cute little lot in the corner, didn't know what it was, and then not even a month later, Ian films a short film in that space. He calls me and tells me, like, you have to check this place out. It just so happens that the person I'm filming with, his dad owns this property. They haven't used it, and they've been looking for someone to take it over. So this conversation started in February, and we got the keys on June 8th. Very. And I'm so grateful. But the challenging part was we didn't feel as though we were ready. It felt unreal, and it felt as though, okay, if we take these keys and we're ready to move in, what does that mean? What does that look like? There's electricity in here, but there's nothing. It was just empty space. And we had to fill it up. We had to get our equipment. We had to invest in so many things. And that was the scary part, was actually not having the upfront funds or an investor or someone to help us. So we took a chance, and we put a lot of our credit to use to just invest in ourselves. And ironically, or maybe this is the universe talking, but we're in a place now where we're comfortable and we've gotten consistent clients, and the event space is getting booked until November.
Oh, wow.
Could you repeat the question?
What was the most unexpected thing that you encountered in trying to start your own business?
Yeah, when I had looked over that question, I didn't take it that way. I enjoyed the story though. So when I was doing the TV shows, I was in a costume house, and I wasn't working for the nicest person, and I was trying to kind of, stay out of her way and do what you can, and they would just do this. I've never done that before. It's okay, I'll figure it out. So I'm sorting clothes, and she's complaining about one of the actresses stealing the clothes, the costumes. And she's like, those clothes are for your character. Now she's telling the story of how she was talking to the actress, basically saying those clothes aren't for you, they're for your character. When you take them away, we need them again. If you could stop stealing, that'd be great. And she said, to kind of make the actress feel better, or like to make a connection, she said, the actress had said, I just love your choices. And she said, well, if you love my taste, you can hire me as your personal stylist. And then I turned around, and I'm usually so silent, I was just like, what is that? What do you mean? And she's like, don't ever speak to me. But she basically explained that, actually she didn't really explain anything. I think I said, how do you charge her? I said something asked something really random, and she's like, oh, like $1,000. I was like, I don't know what that means. Like an hour, a week, a month? I had no idea, but I was like, don't speak to her again. But the point is that kind of told me that job existed, that it was there. And so the next break between the TV shows, I put an ad out on Craigslist, and I said, celebrity wardrobe. I was working with celebrities, so I was a celebrity wardrobe stylist, and I had a client in 4 days. So my first client in 4 days. And when I was building it, you said what was most unexpected part. It was that I didn't realize that there was nobody else really doing it. So when I Googled it, there was nothing. It was like weird things like old lady trunk clubs and like stuff mostly from Britain. It was like, there was a definition of the stylist, but it was with like color with a U. Like you choose colors and stuff. And I was like, I don't know what that, so I just had to make up the entire thing. There was nothing available for resources. I didn't know any other stylists except for the costumers, which aren't considered, they're costumers, not stylists. So that was the most unexpected part, is that there was nobody else doing it. I did find one eventually, but not on Google. So that's that.
So that's a common theme, no one else doing it. When I stopped practicing, I saw a random ad in a community college booklet. And I had never heard of a community college really before then, because I grew up in Indiana. It was a Big Ten basketball town. And my husband was like, holy cow. And I took underwater basket weaving and this and that, and I was retired, basically. But I went to this man's course, and the caption said, what do Oprah, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett have in common? And it said they're all practicing their natural talent. I'm like, sign me up. I'm sitting here eating bonbons, retired at 30-something. But he was an ex-Harvard litigator, more lawyers. And he really taught me that everyone has something they're naturally good at. And if you do it every day, you're gonna live longer, be happier. And for my purposes, he said, if you turn it into a career, you can't fail, because people can tell you're naturally good at it, like with you, and they'll gravitate towards that. And I was like, I'm just a lawyer, I don't have those skills. And this man had been teaching this 25 years. This is 2 years before the recession. He was brilliant. So that was another pivotal moment, truly it was. But the challenge with that was, afterwards he called me up in front of the class and he said, you need to do this for people. And I was so exasperated. I'm like, dude, what? What are you talking about, you weird man? And he said, you'll figure it out. And boy, to your point, you'll figure it out. You just have to be brave and figure it out. There was the concept of personal brand was coming around, but I knew it was bigger than whatever that meant. Today versus yesterday versus tomorrow, you know, those catchphrases people like marketing people hook and then they ride for a couple months and then they drop the term and they pick up a new one because they can make a fast buck off of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go with my gut and create a business because I know what people need. That was the biggest challenge, just creating it from scratch, because there was nothing on Google telling me who did this. Still to this day, no one does exactly what I do because they're not me, right? My skill set's very different. The second challenge was being a pioneer in the space. I'm not patting myself on the back. Being a pioneer stinks in so many ways because you see stuff coming before other people do. And in my situation, it was like, I know what you need. I know what your organization needs. I know what all you need. And people were so averse to change right around the recession. And it was particularly challenging because as a lawyer, I knew the legal community needed what I had because they would call me, they'd be like, I'm not getting any business. I'm like, what are you doing differently? Nothing. What should I be doing differently? I'm like, oh my Lord, what am I gonna do with you people? But they just didn't think it was what I was talking about. And there's nothing more frustrating than being a pioneer and seeing all that and wanting to truly make a difference in people's lives. Because I've left a very, very wealthy career to do this, and people being like, yeah, I don't think I need that. Because people were afraid. All of my clients are very courageous and brave. And so if you decide to do something like this, you will face that challenge where people are like, what do you do? And defining it and creating it and convincing people that they need it so that it's their idea, because otherwise they're not going to benefit. That was extremely challenging. And then, so first other industries went, and then 8 years later, I would say, lawyers all of a sudden were like, we think we need that. And I'm like, okay, I can be patient. So that's challenging.
I think for me, the hardest part has been just building the company brick by brick. No one really tells you how hard that is. And when it's your company and you're creating it, literally every single decision you're making, big ones, little ones, marketing, sales, and for me, I'm the visionary in the business. I'm the one who's looking out forward, and I'm bringing everyone up with me. So, but no one tells you how hard it is, no one really prepares you, there's not really resources, you don't really know where to go, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of hard lessons. But I think really just the idea of just every single thing, just like every single piece, because I've had my hands in every single piece of the company and the structure and what it looks like. And even now, everyone will kind of look to me and I'm trying to delegate, hey, hey, you know, you can make that decision, you can make that decision. But I think that's been the hardest thing, and there really isn't anything that prepares you for that, and I think you just kind of make mistakes as you go, but you learn. I learned to reach out to coaches, and I started my business with a coach who, the first thing that she helped me see was my value. And, you know, I was talking to her because I was trying to figure out how much I charge per hour, right? How much do you charge? You're like, there's nowhere to go. There's no, you know, there's no rule book on that. So you have to think about, you know, women, we don't think about our hourly value. Like, what you know, what does it mean if you're going to charge someone, you know, time and materials, which is what my business is based on. So the first thing my coach said to me was, you don't realize how much you know that other people don't know. I just kind of took it for granted that everyone knew what I knew. So understanding that I really had some services to offer, that I could put a value around that, I reached out to a lot of friends and colleagues, and I was so appreciative of generosity. So many people were willing to help me and talk to me and spend time with me, attorneys. A lot of attorneys in my business, it's all around finance and everything, and you know, we try to collaborate together. But so I think it was very important for me to humble myself and realize that I had to reach out. I needed to talk to people, and I did what they told me to do, even if it was hard. You know, I was trying to put together some marketing material, and this one attorney, a very good friend, I had already created kind of a list. They said, go back and create a list of every single project you ever worked on. And I've been in renewables a long time, so that was a really long list. And so then after I did that, they said, well, you know, go back and revise that list to pick out one issue that you solved on every single project. So doing that, and it ended up starting like at 15 pages and it grew, but it was an experience of me starting to look at, you know, what have I really done? Wow, I've done a lot. Look at all these things that I've done. But just incorporating all that, thinking about all that, creating it from the inception where you're just all coming out of your head, and it's like, wow, it's a lot, and it's still a lot. It's still a lot. Some days I go and I'm like, wow, this is you know, there's still so much going on, but it's a lot of fun, and I like the fact that, you know, a lot of times if you're working in a traditional corporate environment, you know, you have to go through the hierarchy. You have to ask permission. I don't have to ask for permission. I don't have to ask for permission. If somebody calls and says, hey, Kim, do you think you could do this? I'm like, can we do that? You know, one of our first big projects, a really long-time client, actually a colleague from my former business, called and said, hey, we've got to hit this project deadline. We have to do it by 12/31. It was like November the 1st. I was like, are you crazy? And he's like, do you think you can do that? And I was like, oh yeah, we can do that. And then I called my colleague, we were working really close together, and I said, can we do this? And he's like, of course we can. So, you know, it's been fun, but you know, you're taking those risks.
The destination management company that I first worked for was called Safaris and Tours because they were based in Brazil. And I started their San Diego office. And after about 7 years, I was not happy. They were not great bosses for a lot of reasons. And I had a couple of clients, and I left the company. And I had, all my clients had my home phone, because when you do what I do, it's a 7/24 job. And if they have 1,000 people on the ground, they want to know where you are if the motor coaches don't show up. So everybody had my home number, and I was sitting at my kitchen table trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I had two of my major clients call and say, why don't you start your own business? I said, okay. And they said, if you do that, we will give you our business as long as you remain competitive and your service levels are high. I said, well, okay. So I went, again, this is a long time ago, I tried to get a loan, and I was considered as a woman an underprivileged minority, and which meant I couldn't get a loan unless a man signed for me.
Oh!
Yeah, exactly. And so I actually found a wonderful banker who took a chance and lent me $90,000 to start my company. That's more money than I thought anybody in the world had. And I again, I reached out to my consultant friends, and they really helped me plan my business. But I did it at my kitchen table, and I didn't know an entrepreneur was, but we are risk takers, and we just kind of go out into the darkness and make it light. And
I love that.
I paid off that SBA loan in a year, and I never looked back.
So we're gonna shift gears a little bit. You guys touched on some of these themes already, but what is your definition of a strong woman? And how do you think you've been a strong woman? The third part of this, how has that been received in your career? Does anybody want to start, or do we want to go?
My definition of a strong woman is all of you beautiful ladies here who show up. I think it's very difficult, at least for me in my case, it was very hard to put myself out there. I always considered myself to be an introvert, but I always wanted to connect. And as women, and just as humans in general, we're human. That's what we crave, is human connection. And growing up, I've never had a strong group of female friends. I felt as though they were always catty, and just being in the state of mind that I am today, and being able to see that strong women support one another, strong women create space for one another, and just allow for vulnerability and just real, genuine connection. I know it's very hard to find, but the fact that we're all here today, the fact that we're enjoying dinner, breaking bread, knowing that there's so many diverse and beautiful, talented women in this room, that's what strong women look like. And they look like all the women who are at home who crave the same thing, and who are brave and who have the courage to put themselves out there. I think what makes me a strong woman is just being up here today. I've started my business with no knowledge of how to do that. Just really poking around out there and trying to gain information on Google, and also asking a few of the friends that I do know who have started their businesses for advice. And to be in this position right now, I really wanted a space of our own, not only for our production purposes, but so I can open up the doors to people, and specifically women, to host their own events. It's been really great to see how it's been used so far. And one of the events that happen at least every month is a self-care and self-love workshop for women, hosted by Mary Gutierrez, which is his sister. And it's been amazing to see women just come together and support one another and allow each other space. And I think that is so important, especially just with the climate that we're in right now. There's so many challenges. One being a woman, and one just trying to find our voice and having the courage to share it. And I really believe that all of us have some amazing stories to share. And I hope all of you have the opportunity to do that.
I was thinking about this question, and I felt there was so many things that portray strength, and one of them is kindness. It takes strength to be kind. It's really easy to be rude or cold or sharp. You're letting your mood take over your language. So when you use kind words, when you act kindly, that takes strength. It takes control and discipline. I ended up deciding on strength. A strong woman gets things done. That is really what I ended up pursuing in this thought process when she showed us that question an hour ago.
Surprise!
We knew. So I when I started personal styling, I didn't have enough money in my mind to start a website. So I was at the time doing an online lifestyle show, which was too ahead of its time. It was canceled very quickly. Now it's very common. This was in 2007, and the producer of the show, she said, "Where are we putting your website? Where's your website?" And I was like, "I don't have one." And she was like, "Then get a blog." I was like, "Okay." So I just got it done. And then you get a hard client, you get it done. So that's how I felt that I was showing my strength. I just got things done. You're gonna work. The longest day I ever worked on the TV show was 22 hours. You just get it done. So that is always how I've lived, and I walk very quickly, I move very quickly because I'm getting things done. My pace is in my strength. My strength is in my pace. So yeah, just anything that came my way, just get it done. I remember I was styling the cover of San Diego magazine, and the day before that shoot, I got a call from Wealth magazine to style Tony Hawk the day after that shoot. And I was like, of course. And I was like, oh, what do I do? So I was prepping for that shoot. I styled that shoot. I got into the car right after putting the clothes from that model on, and then got on the phone with whoever I could get to put clothing on, oh, I'm sorry, actually I was styling Tony Hawk. And then I got the call for San Diego magazine. I was like, wait, was I putting in Max Mara? So then I left Tony Hawk and sat in the car at Fashion Valley Mall calling the publicist of any store I could get to. And then finally, like, this is so strange, but yes, like, you never do that. You don't give a brand an hour notice to pull clothing, but they let me do it, and I was able to do those back-to-back shoots because, you know, I got it done. But that's one of the few times in my career I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. But I was like, you know what I can do is call them up and tell them I can't do it. So I'll do this instead. I'll just keep doing this. So I think, did you ask how the strength has been received?
Yeah.
Right. So as a personal stylist, I am so in charge of both my business and my clients. People pay me to tell them what to do, and people love it. So my strength has been received incredibly well, and to the point where one of my clients looked at me and was like, "Can I throw away the shoe boxes?" And I was like, "Yes, you may. Actually, do you mean recycle?" He's like, "Oh, yes, yes." So everyone does what I say, and I love that. So strength has been good.
I think you can all see, like, there's a humor that you have to live by in order to, I think, be strong in anything. My definition of a strong woman has changed. I'm now 47, so I represent the 40s here. And I think I really want you guys to see that distinction, which is why I bring it up. So in my 30s, I had a very fast pace, and I was just all over everything. Then as I evolved, I'm like, you know, I think there's a lot more ease and grace at going at things slower. And to your point, very much so, a strong person is what I try to be, not a strong woman. Because I like to look at everyone as with a form of oneness rather than that separation that's so common anymore these days. Because I've done formal research on stress and self-confidence at UCLA with a neuroscientist a decade ago, and I've discovered as stress goes up, as it naturally does for all of us, our self-confidence drops proportionally. It has to. It's biological, physiological. And so whatever can get my stress down, whatever can get all my clients' stress down, is what boosts our self-confidence, and that's how we come across and we sell ourselves well. So that's always my mission. So as a strong person, what reduces my stress is seeing everyone as equal and the same, and coming at life with a sense of faith, and really living by my 4 values, which are fairness, freedom, fun, and faith. So and you don't need alliteration in your values, and you don't even need 4. But that keeps me focused and strong. And I think there's something to be said for realizing that less is more. And how has it been received? You'll get a chuckle out of this. So I chair and lead a lot of things. In fact, as I was telling her that I'm getting ready, apparently I've been tagged to serve as on a public company operating board, because that apparently I had a background. Who knew? That's the other thing. You never say no. You just say, yes, I can do that, because they know better than you do. But as I look over everything, it's about a sense of, no, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Remind me, what was I saying? The board, before the board, what did I say?
How have you been received?
Oh, received, thank you, yeah, the big part of this. So I chair a lot of things, thank you. And so I was chair of the ABA Law Practice Division, the American Bar Association, so thousands and thousands of people. And one man, a Southern gentleman, who had actually been very important in getting me into that role, he was very angry at me, and he was really very clear on letting me know that Madam Chair was not well received. And I said, what is wrong with you? And he said, you're trying to systematically eradicate the white man from this board. And well, but see, that's the problem, right? And I said, what? And so in that moment, I had a choice. I could have gotten really angry at him and told him where to shove that. But I really looked in his eyes, and I saw the pain and the fear of being left behind and being unloved, which is everyone's fear. Every client, every person we work with, we work through that process, right? How to be a strong brand means leaving that baggage at home and bearing it. And I said, I would never do that. You're a very valued member, and I would never do that to anybody, much less any white man. And you could just see him like the child, just calm. This man who had billions, but wasn't valuing himself at all. And people, some women laugh at me when I tell them that. They're like, oh, poor him. And I'm like, no, but you really got to see that's humanity's problem. And so, was my strength received well? Perhaps not in that moment, but I'll tell you, after that, I really work at coming from a place of kindness to people. And it may in that moment they don't want to receive it well because they're not used to it. And look, I'm not a saint. I screw up a lot. I mess this one up all the time. Ask my husband. But at least I can go to bed at night knowing that I did my best. And I know they can recognize that I'm doing my best. And I'm trying to honor who they are, regardless of gender. So that's what I do.
I think strength, so I've had a decision to make because I'm a leader, right? And I look at a lot of what's happening in the world right now, and I feel like when I look at Me Too, and I think the thing that I drew out of that is that in our role as leaders, it's our job to decide what our organization, what things should look at, so, and what they should look like. So I had to make a decision last year because I had a client that was really disrespectful toward one, my company's predominantly women, by the way. But I had one consultant, and this particular client was very rude to the point where this guy was like, he's a professional, and he was completely shook up because this person was so difficult to work with. And I thought, this is my company. I have to decide, am I gonna draw a line here? Do I really need this business that much? I really had to decide what kind of leader I was, what kind of company I had, what kind of clients I was gonna have. I ended up firing the client. And I made a decision from there what my company was going to look like. And so we have a culture now where we have a no drama culture, and we have all women. So you can imagine it's a little bit of a challenge. Well, we have no drama culture, and we all know that. And we've actually had people that are gone now because they didn't work and they didn't jive. And so I feel like strength is in being that leader. I'm that leader, and they're looking to me, and I have to set that value, and I have to make sure that they know that that's going to be who we are. So I feel like, and I've just come into this, right? And I'm in the next age group. So, but I've just come into this realization that it's really important. So I think that's strength for me. Has it been well received? It's very interesting. Renewables, not a lot of women. I have people that I've worked with a really long time. All of a sudden I had an incident this year, very threatened by what we did in our company, and I was just so taken aback. Someone I've known many years, I couldn't believe like they were really undermining me and my company and what we were doing. And it's interesting because again, I've had to decide how I'm going to approach it. And you get kind of upset and you're like, wait a minute. but I've had to really decide how I was gonna approach it and how I was gonna deal with it. So for me, that's really been the strength, is that role as a woman, as a person, as a leader. You know, what example am I gonna set? Who do I wanna be? What is my company gonna look like? What kind of culture do I want? What people do I want working with me? So, and it's a challenge. It's really a challenge, in terms of business.
It's very cathartic firing a client. Jenny, you'll remember we fired one or two. Jenny worked for me for a long time. I read a quote yesterday, and I was just racking my brain on what woman said it. But she said, it's not only having a seat at the board table, it's having the seat at the head of the board table. And I really thought a long time about that, because it takes a strong, committed woman with all of the attributes that you all mentioned to sit at, not only to sit on a board with mostly men, but to sit at the head of the board and to understand the angst that men are feeling these days, because there are strong women who are taking all sorts of jobs. As I consider myself a strong woman, if you ask my partner Jim, he would agree with that. And I think we have to recognize that fear that the men in our life and the men that we work with, our son, I see it in my son, because they worry that they're not going to be the one who goes out and hunts and does all that from the original days, but they are going to be left in the dust. And we really have to be kind, and we have to be strong, and we have to be empathetic as to what their challenges are. And I can't think of anything else to say. Oh, how is that received? I think as a leader, I was a strong leader, and I was outspoken. And somebody else who knows me is shaking their head. And I think that's okay. I think we have to be, as women, we have to be strong leaders, but we have to let our feminine side out. We have to let the world know that we're not only ready to take charge, but we also are ready to be moms, and we're ready to be sisters, and we're ready to be kind to people. And so with that, thank you very much.
Can I get a time check? Are we?
Sure, it's 7:25, so maybe this would be a good opportunity to have a couple folks ask some questions from the audience.
Okay, we got one right here.
I just want to respond to that. I just want to respond. I graduated from Duke. To me too, there's only one woman to four guys, and when I got an MBA, there was none of us. And so I hit the glass ceiling a lot. But I just perceived, it didn't work out in banking, so I kept going up by changing jobs. And in my career, my mother didn't want me to go ahead. You're doing better than us. Now, I was raised in a boarding house, so it wasn't out of trial. My daughter, who's millennial, and I sent her to Colgate, she did a good job. And she's married to a guy, comparable job. And he and some of his friends who I met, they don't want the wife to take time off. I found out a lot of those people, the men, you're working, why should I work? And you take time off to have a child or this, that, and the other. And I was kind of blown away.
That's interesting.
I mean,
Thank you. Just a question about
emotions and being feminine in the workplace. I think for a long time the theme was to level set and be like a man in order to match executives or get yourself into a certain position. At least that's the message I received growing up and trying to get myself into a place that was equal to or being looked at as an equal of a man. But I struggle with being human in the workplace, sharing my personal life. We were just talking about this. How much do I share? How much do I not share? How much of myself am I feminine? How much am I just robot? I don't know, neutral. And so in trying to lead, because I lead a group of both females and males, and not be partial to the females, because I relate to them, and not be partial to the males because of the empathy of what we're trying to achieve. I'm also in renewables and trying to increase diversity in the workplace. How have you handled that within yourself? I'm a very soft, emotional person in my personal life, but then I go into a workplace and I have to put on almost a different cloak to be, to match that intensity. And I'm okay doing it because I've done it now for 15 years. But how have you handled that in matching that, but also being yourself?
I wouldn't mind starting on this one. I started my business when I was 25 years old. I think actually maybe 24. And I wouldn't relate to you in the sense that I was emotional at all, but I was young and loved to party and was being hired by very fluent people in their 60s or 50s or 40s, anyone in their 20s. And I kept my personal life separate, and I continue to do that. And I recommend that, but that's coming from me as an entrepreneur in many ways. I'm a solopreneur, I have a very small team. So I know there's a big push to be more open, be yourself, but I find when I am bringing that to the professional, I find it distracts me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like the separation, I prefer the separation, and I know that everyone I work with appreciates my professionalism. And when my team, the people on my team who do bring, I guess, their humanity, it is often construed as unprofessional, and it sometimes gets in the way of our work. So there's a reason, there's, the personal life, and I think we're losing a lot of our privacy, we're losing a lot of our personal life, and I like having that separation. I want that time to myself, and my close friends, and my family. Not everyone needs to know that I cried about this thing at home. Not everyone needs to know that a family member of mine is sick. That's information that I would like to give when I am comfortable. So I don't consider it a male quality to be level-headed at work. I consider it professional. And there's nothing, I'm such a woman. Look at these shoes, But that doesn't give me carte blanche to cry in front of people. That doesn't give me the excuse to really, let me tell you about my period. That's for my time. And I think it's nice to protect that. So it might be constraining, but I think it's precious. I think you had something.
So I agree with everything you say. I think there's a distinction though about not leaving your authenticity at the door. So when I was practicing law in DC back in the 90s, the women used to strap down their chest and wear dark pantsuits, and we would pretend we were men. And when you pretend you're anything, it doesn't work, right? So then the men would laugh at us and be like, why are you pretending like you're us? That failed. And then we were angry because we were losing who we really were deep down inside and snuffing it down and numbing it. And that left us unproductive and unhappy and not a contribution. So I think as with everything in life that I say, there's a harmony of knowing when you want to share what you want to share. That's called an intentional brand, in my opinion. But also knowing that curious brands win and authentic brands win. And if you feel like wearing a floral top, wear it. If you feel like wearing heels, wear it. Don't let anyone else tell you what's authentic to you because of gender or for any other reason, right? We do that all the time still. I hear that from women all the time. And I honestly don't think we can blame men for that. When I stopped straightening my hair was the day of my liberation, because I got an hour back in my mornings to go to the gym. I, for some reason, thought a smart woman who was a lawyer and then, whatever, running a business, these weird judgments we have in our heads, meant I had to have straight hair. And I don't have straight hair. I have curly hair, and I'm going to own my curls. I always tell everyone who knows me, every client knows, I say, are you owning your stuff? Do you really own it? Because that is so attractive to people. So it takes introspection, it takes time thinking about it, and it takes self-awareness, which is the number one thing. And then you can come to those conclusions on your own and know what's right for you and your story.
I might just say, yeah, we are predominantly women. Actually, I also have a family business. So my sons work for me and most of us are related. And I've been told by the employees that we have we're the most what is it when you have anti-nepotism business? But I think there's a lot of challenges to, trying to run a business, trying to have that collaboration, communication, really super important. And I think women bring, when we are ourselves, we bring a unique aspect to business. We're the collaborators, and we bring that balance into those conversations, into those meetings, into those strategy sessions. And so it's really important to encourage that. But I think, again, as a leader, we're demonstrating how everyone works together, and that respect, those values, all those kinds of things are really important in making sure that everyone knows that I've learned, and I've made a lot of really important decisions as far as backing up my people when they're coming to me and making recommendations, going along with, saying, yeah, go try that, go do that, and trying to encourage people, and creating that environment for everyone. So, but I think as a leader, there's a challenge, and I'm always thinking about ways that we can improve and we can be better. And we can be working together, and I think realizing that we have, 21 all the way up to my age in our business. So also embracing all those differences, which is really, the differences between the generations are huge in the way that we work. So.
I had a situation in my office, and I had probably 90% women in my office. I had a big office, my San Diego office. And I really wasn't paying attention, and one of my employees took her own life. And I was, as you can all imagine, I didn't know how to handle it. And I called my team together and I said, I don't know, this has nothing to do with us. This young woman had an issue that she just couldn't resolve. And we just have to move forward. And that's when I realized that, well, I didn't want to be best friends with my employees. I really did want to pay attention to them. Because we worked, our job is just constant. And I wanted to understand a little bit about them. I wanted to understand if they were having challenges at home or whatever. Because I knew I could help them. I could not counsel them, but at least I could understand if they needed time off. They knew that they could come and they could ask me for it, and I would say why, and they'd say, well, it's a personal issue, and no one ever took advantage of that. And so it's a balance, but if you've got a lot of people working for you, you really do have to pay attention to somewhat to what is going on in their whole life.
I didn't mean for that to be a down.
So I can relate to a few of you here because I've had several careers. I was an adventure guide. I've been a special education teacher and an attorney, which is what I now do. And I have 3 other businesses. I have a hikes and happy hours business, and I'm an artist. And my question is, what do you think is your secret power as a woman entrepreneur? For me, especially working in law, and I work in family law, just highly litigated area, with a lot of drama and negativity. I think in the beginning, I could relate to what you said. Like, I tried to be like the men, even though I wasn't very successful at tapping down on what I think ended up being kind of my strengths, which is having empathy and compassion for my clients, understanding and a willingness to collaborate, which now I mostly focus my practice on mediation and settlements, and I'm just launching a divorce ceremonies business, which everyone thinks is really crazy and weird, but you know what? It's a lot more sane than what really goes on in divorce court. So that's my question for you. What do you feel are your secret powers as a woman entrepreneur? Because I actually think that that's what makes all the men really scared, is they really can't access some of the powers that we have.
So I'll go first and keep it short because we're out of time. Love. You know, there's just,
I don't need the mic. It's just love, really. You can take that to mean whatever you want, because I think we've summarized it today.
I would say staying calm. I can stay calm, I can stay centered, and a lot of times, you know, you wouldn't think there's a lot of chaos in what we do, but it's very stressful. And so I think staying calm and just keeping people centered and staying on point, we're gonna get there, it's okay.
I think my secret power over the years was in staying in tune with what was going on with the world, because my clients were from all over, and I could be sitting with the president of Shell Oil, and if there was something going on at the pumps, I needed to know that, and that's before the internet. I actually had to read the Wall Street Journal, I had to read papers, and so I think that's it for me. I think you just have to really stay in touch.
I would say my superpower is my energy. I feel like I could work anyone under the table. And my just constantly progressing. Like I'm never just, the minute I have a second, I'm like, oh, how can I be better and bigger? And I feel like I have no control of it. It just speaks, and then I start doing it. And I'm like, what, I could have had a day off. But yeah, progression.
One of my superpowers is just being a kind person and building relationships. I think it's so important to, especially when you deal with multiple clients and get to work with them, is just meeting them where they're at and being understanding.
I can do this. I have a big voice. I was taught. I was taught to project. It's okay. What's the importance of mentorship? I was blessed to have very strong mentors, Patty being kind of one of them. And so what is the power of mentorship as being one and finding them?
Thank you. I have to speak to this because it's very pivotal for me. I had some extremely wonderful mentors in renewables, because again, right now there's 13% of women in renewables. When I started 25 years ago, maybe there was 1%. So I was surrounded by a lot of really great men who really supported me, encouraged me, and when I asked to do something, they said, sure, go do it, go try it. You know, and so I think that, and when I talk to women now, I really encourage them to find mentors. I think it's so important, men and women, right? I think men and women, because again, like we're talking about, they bring a balance. So I've had coaches, I've had mentors, super important to help you see beyond yourself. Because a lot of times we're immersed in what's going on, and someone else can talk to you and it's like, oh hey, I never even thought of that. And it's really very evident
but it just takes someone else to bring it to your attention.
I think mentorship is critical. We've all been mentored. I certainly have in my life by men and women. And now with my involvement with the university, I mentor young women and men, but mostly the young women. And it's good for me, it's good for them, and it just keeps I'm in my 70s, and it keeps my mind so active when I'm around these young people. And so if whether you're a mentor or a mentee, just embrace it and enjoy it.
I look at it as my responsibility, but I also look at it as role modeling. I think there's a lot of people that say they mentor, but they don't lead by example. And I think that's a confusing distinction for people. Yesterday I was in Chicago. Baxter Healthcare is one of my clients, and one of the young women who's going through my program there was like, well, so I have a question. One of these people are trying to mentor me, and she went through the litany of advice she'd gotten, and I was like trying to hold back because she was so confused. She's like, but I don't see them doing that, and then I don't understand how this applies to me, and on and on and on and on. So I think beyond mentorship is I think sometimes everyone starts off with the best of intentions, but sort of turns into, let me tell you what I know and what you should do and what I don't want you to do around me and what you should do around everybody else. Really, are you living that truth for yourself so that you can actually just show up and have control and have responsibility? It's very empowering to do the right thing so other people can just follow your lead. That's truly leadership, where you're inspired that way.
I had I don't know if it's fortune or misfortune, I had no help. I had nothing. It was really just raw materials when I created everything. And I do find that because I missed out on that, I am maybe too helpful to other people. I was like, God, if you knew, do you know how many years, I would have been successful so much sooner. When I say successful, I mean like I can buy whatever I want. Like I could have had that a lot sooner if I had some help, if I had known. I mean, I hand did my newsletters and sent them via email, and you know how that email stops you after like 30 emails? I'm like, now I wait 20 minutes. Like I didn't know about MailChimp. Like I had to just blindly do everything. So, I don't know.
Similar story. I haven't had any mentors, but I like to seek mentorship through the books that I read or the podcasts that I listen to. So
Google was my mentor. What podcast? What podcast? Give us your thoughts.
one of my favorite books is Start With Your Why by Simon Sinek. Really, really great read if you haven't read it already. The TED Talk is fantastic if you don't want to read. I really like Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. That's the most recent book that I read, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Actually, that was a great question to end on, because in the spirit of mentorship, I think the Professional Women's Council is actually a great place where women can find mentorship and find that community that we've been talking about. I like to say a rising tide lifts all ships, and I see a lot of ships in this room, and I think it's a great group of women here. Thank you so much, everybody on our panel.